like, se inscreverem e derem o like, é acobertado por Deus e o Divino Espírito Santo. E se não derem o like, está acompanhado com todos os cães que tiver no inferno: Caim, Satanás, Pão Grosso e Parafuso, Botafogo, Lucifer, que é o chefe de lá, e meu avô, que é o comandante de tudo. Botar para arrombar em vocês, tudo aí.
Having just reviewed the HD re-release of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure and previewed a new Dead or Alive title, revisiting Jet Set Radio has been nothing short of surreal. Had you told me back in 2000, when these 3 games were spinning in my Dreamcast, that I'd be writing about them 12 years down the line, I'd probably have thought that was awesome, and it is. But I'd also wonder why. Why would anyone still care about these games over a decade later? For JoJo's, I'd say the reason is novelty, and for Dead or Alive, it's iteration. But the reason people still care about Jet Set Radio is entirely different. It's because Jet Set Radio matters. I love video games with my entire heart, but few of them truly matter. They are ultimately, just like most pieces of film and music, created for our amusement. And in its own way, amusement matters, but that's a whole other stack of words. The part of Jet Set Radio that exists for the player's amusement, the levels, the mechanics, haven't necessarily aged gracefully. But the rest of it, its music, its message, and its soul have never felt fresher. For those of you who aren't old and wrinkled enough to have a clue as to what I'm going on about, Jet Set Radio is a 3D platformer developed by Smilebit and released on the Sega Dreamcast in 2000. You play as one of several members of a Shibuya-based graffiti gang called the GGs who rollerblade around a fictional version of Tokyo while besting rival gangs and, more importantly, rebelling against the fascist police regime that dominates the streets. The core gameplay consists mostly of traversing open urban environments via jumping and rail grinding while dodging the cops and tagging key areas with your graffiti. While it sounds like a recipe for good times, a few sour ingredients dampen the fun a bit. There's no easy way to say this, so I'll just blurt it out. The overall gameplay in Jet Set Radio is merely passable. I remember feeling that way back when it was first released. No one element of the game's design is bad enough on its own to condemn it, but when the pieces start coming together they don't fit quite right, making many levels less fun than they could be. The controls are just sluggish enough, and the collision detection just vague enough that you never quite feel in complete control of your character. This becomes a somewhat larger problem when you're scrambling aimlessly around a But the game didn't enslave a throng of loyal fans because of its gameplay, odd as that might sound. It was its style and spirit that made it worth experiencing, and I'm elated to say that age has only helped in this regard. HD resolutions have done great things for Jet Set Radio, allowing its one-of-a-kind neopunk visuals to truly pop while showing how age-proof brilliant art direction truly is. Aside from a blocky texture here and there, it looks like it was made today rather than 12 years ago. In an age when the term art game has become synonymous with pretension and minimalism, JSR shows that art can be in your face and full of attitude, too. And make no bones about it, this game is art. The fact that it makes no visible attempt to convince you as much only legitimizes its claim to that title. From the get-go, it pulses with a youthful, rebellious verve that few games can match. This gang of skating street artists become accidental heroes simply by the merit of what they do, run free and make art wherever they go, a notion whose beauty was mostly lost on my younger self. When I first watched lines of police in riot gear firing tear gas at my unarmed avatar back in 2000, I only saw another exaggerated video game enemy. As a grown man, though, I see it for what it is, a statement that any group that uses its power so readily and excessively is unfit to wield it, and that self-expression and nonviolent dissent can overcome it. JSR doesn't achieve this sense of defiant freedom through elaborate pre-rendered cutscenes or A-list Hollywood voice talent either. Its characters' designs and actions speak for themselves, and the music does all the rest. I'm not sure if I can say definitively that this is the best soundtrack in video game history, but it certainly belongs in the discussion. Composer Hideki Naganuma took chunks of indie rock, trip-hop, and acid jazz and melted them down into a punchy, psychedelic sound. As I like to say, there are two words in the term video game, and you have to execute both well in order to be considered great. In this case, the game portion can be trying almost as often as it is fun, and can be completed in 1 or 2 sittings with minimal replay value. But the video, or music video, portion of Jet Set Radio amounts to something so special that I think anyone who truly believes in the artistic potential of the medium should experience it. Players looking for a game with finely tuned mechanics and thrill-a-minute gameplay will want to look elsewhere. But fans of the original, or those wanting to engage in some funk-fueled civil disobedience should definitely take the ride.